The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. The Secret Annex. It was a cloudy morning in July 1942 when I first began to confide in you, Kitty. The world outside was embroiled in a terrible war, and being Jewish, my family and I were about to embark on a clandestine journey into hiding. Today I start writing in you my diary, and I'm both excited and scared. We're going to live in a secret place, right here in Amsterdam, sharing our hiding spot with the Van Pels family, who are also seeking refuge from the persecution. Mr. Frank, are we all set for our move? I asked my father, Otto Frank, as he made final preparations in his office building. Yes, Anne, everything is ready. The secret annex, a concealed set of rooms behind a movable bookcase in my office, building on Prinsengracht, will be our hidden fortress, he replied, with a sense of resolve. As we tiptoed up the narrow staircase to the annex, the musty scent of old books and dust greeted us, a stark reminder of the world we were leaving behind. I can't believe we have to live in hiding, Father. It's so unfair that we can't even step outside without fear, I said, trying to hold back tears. I know, Anne. It's not easy, but we must be strong. The world may be at war, but we will find peace in our secret annex, he reassured me, his hand comforting on my shoulder. Upon entering the annex, I was struck by the dampness and the lopsided walls. Yet it felt like a fortress that would shield us from the chaos outside. The space was efficiently organized, with each room assigned a specific function, making it a comfortable hiding place despite its simplicity. My eyes lit up as I saw our new home. It was cozy and had a sense of warmth and a charm that belied our precarious situation. The narrow hallway led to a room that would serve as the living space for my family, with a smaller adjoining room for Margot and me. It was here, in this modest bedroom and study, that I would pour out my heart into these pages. To the right of the stairs, a windowless washroom with a sink offered a semblance of normalcy, and a toilet tucked away in the corner provided privacy in our shared quarters. As night fell on our first day in the secret annex, the reality of our situation began to sink in. Lying in my makeshift bed, a wave of loneliness washed over me despite the close proximity of my family. The silence was punctuated by the occasional creak of the old building, each sound a reminder of the need for caution. Yet as I clutched my fountain pen, a symbol of my autonomy and identity, I felt a glimmer of hope. Here in these pages, I could express myself freely, unburden my thoughts, and escape, if only for a moment, the confines of our hidden world. Family dynamics. As I sat in the secret annex, surrounded by the familiar faces of my family and the Van Dans, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. We had been hiding here for what felt like an eternity, and the constant threat of discovery hung over us like a dark cloud. I turned to my diary, my trusted confidant, and began to write. "Dear Kitty," I scribbled, "I feel so misunderstood by Father. He always praises Margot and hugs her, but he never does the same for me. It's as if he thinks I'm not good enough. I wish Father could understand me," I wrote. "I long for something from him that he's incapable of giving. It's like he doesn't know how to be a father to me." I looked up to see Mother walking into the room, her face worn and tired. She had been struggling to keep our spirits up, but it was clear that she was feeling the strain of our confinement. "Anne, dear, can you help me with the cooking?" she asked, her voice weak. I nodded, putting aside my diary. As we worked together in the cramped kitchen, the smell of mashed potatoes and pickled kale filled the air. I grimaced at the thought of another meal without the luxury of oil, the wretched food a constant reminder of our dire situation. Despite my disgust, I knew this was necessary, and I assisted Mother in silence, the unpleasant sense a testament to our resilience. Later that day, Father called a meeting to discuss our living arrangements. "We need to ration our food more carefully," Father said, his voice firm but worried. "We can't afford to waste anything." Mrs. Van Daan spoke up, her voice shrill. "But Otto, we can't live on potatoes and soup alone. We need some oil for cooking." Father sighed. I know, Edith, but we have to make do with what we have. The argument escalated, with everyone chiming in and raising their voices. I felt my anger rising, my frustration boiling over. Why can't we just get along? I shouted, slamming my fist on the table. The room fell silent. Everyone's eyes were on me, and I could feel my cheeks burning with embarrassment. Father cleared his throat and spoke in a calm voice. Annan is right. We must work together, not against each other. We're all we have. I watched as Father's gaze softened when he looked at me. It was a rare moment where I felt seen by him. Anne, I know this is hard for you, and I'm sorry if I've made you feel unimportant. You matter to us more than you know, he said. I felt a lump form in my throat. It wasn't the affection I yearned for, but it was a start. Mother reached out and squeezed my hand, offering a silent apology of her own. From that day on, we tried to understand each other better. We shared our fears, our hopes, and even our scarce food with more kindness. We were a family, not just by blood or marriage, but by the shared experience of hiding, of surviving. As the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, our family dynamics shifted. We became more than just occupants of the secret annex. We became each other's lifeline in a world that had turned its back on us. And through it all, my diary, my dear Kitty, was there to capture every moment, every emotion, every struggle. Tensions rise. As the weeks dragged on, the inhabitants of the secret annex felt the weight of their confinement. Tensions, which had been simmering beneath the surface, threatened to boil over. The previous chapter left off with Anne feeling frustrated and misunderstood, longing for some privacy and understanding. Anne's request for a table in her room seemed simple enough. She wanted a dedicated space to study and pursue her academic goals without distractions. She dreamed of becoming a journalist and was determined to continue her education despite their challenging circumstances. However, her request sparked a heated argument with Mr. Dussel, her roommate. Mr. Dussel, a middle-aged man with a stubborn streak, refused to give up the table. He dismissed Anne's interests in Greek and Roman mythology, knitting and reading as mere hobbies, not worthy of serious consideration. You can't just take over the table for your leisure activities, he said, his voice laced with condescension. Anne, feeling misunderstood and frustrated, tried to explain her passion for learning and self-improvement. I'm trying to educate myself, she said, her voice shaking. I want to be a journalist one day, and I need a quiet space to study and write. But Mr. Dussel remained unmoved, his eyes narrowing behind his glasses. The argument escalated, with Mr. Dussel accusing Anne of being selfish and self-absorbed. He refused to acknowledge her academic aspirations, instead choosing to belittle her interests. Anne, hurt and angry, struggled to hold back her tears. She felt like her dreams and ambitions were being trampled on. The incident highlighted the power dynamics and conflicts within the annex. Mr. Dussel's refusal to accommodate Anne's reasonable request created a rift between them. Anne confided in her diary, expressing her frustration and longing for understanding. I just want to be myself without feeling judged, she wrote. Why can't he see that my studies are just as important as his? The tension between Anne and Mr. Dussel was palpable, affecting the dynamics within the entire group. The others noticed Anne's anxiety and made a concerted effort to be more considerate. They tried to give each other space and privacy whenever possible, understanding that their close quarters made it difficult to escape one another's company. Despite their attempts at harmony, the atmosphere remained strained. Anne's relationship with Mr. Dussel was particularly fraught, and she began to wonder if they could ever truly coexist peacefully. She longed for resolution, for a way to navigate the complex web of relationships within the annex, without sacrificing her dreams and aspirations. As Anne reflected on her situation, she realized that everyone in the annex was fighting their own battles. She recognized that their flaws and imperfections were a result of their shared struggle to survive. With renewed determination, she resolved to find a way to make it work, no matter what challenges lay ahead. She would emerge stronger, more resilient, and perhaps even wiser because of their difficult circumstances. Closing her diary, Anne looked around at the people who had become her unconventional family. She knew that their journey would be fraught with tension and conflict, but she also believed that together they would face whatever came their way. A glimmer of normalcy. The secret annex was unusually quiet that evening, the only sound being the soft crackle of the radio, which Mr. Van Daan had fixed himself. He sat back, a small smile playing on his lips as he listened to the news of the Allied forces. "They're making progress," he said, not to anyone in particular. "We just have to hold on a little longer." Anne, sitting at the small table she had fought so hard for, looked up from her diary. "Do you really think it'll be soon, Mr. Van Daan?" He nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "Yes, Anne, I do." The room felt warmer somehow. The tension that usually hung in the air like thick smoke seemed to dissipate. Even Peter, who often kept to himself, joined the group, his curiosity piqued by the conversation. It was Dussel's birthday, and despite the scarcity, Mr. Van Daan had managed to save an egg for him. "A birthday is still a birthday, even here," he said as he handed the precious gift to Dussel, who accepted it with a surprised gratitude. The act of kindness didn't go unnoticed, and for a moment the annex's inhabitants allowed themselves to indulge in the semblance of a celebration. Miep had brought cookies, and Bep had somehow found a jar of yogurt. It wasn't much, but it was enough to bring smiles to their faces. Anne watched as they all shared in the simple pleasures of Dussel's birthday celebration. Confiding in each other. The attic was quiet, the soft rustling of pages the only sound as Anne turned her diary to a new entry. She glanced towards Peter's room, which had become a sanctuary for them. "Peter?" Anne whispered. "Yes, Anne," came his soft reply. "May I come in?" "Of course," he said, his voice warm. She entered, finding him by the window. They sat together, sharing the comfort of each other's presence. "I've been thinking," Anne said. "About what?" Peter asked. "About us. About everything we've been through. We're like two sides of the same coin, aren't we?" Peter chuckled. "I suppose we are." They spoke of books they'd read and the music they missed. As they said goodnight, it was with a promise to meet again under the same moon, in the same quiet room where a friendship was forged in the shadows of war. Emotional journeys. Anne hesitated outside Peter's room, the diary in her hands a testament to her inner turmoil. The longing to see him was overwhelming, yet she was torn by her loyalty to Margot. With a sigh, she closed the diary and softly knocked on his door. "Peter," she whispered. "Come in, Anne," came Peter's low but welcoming reply. As she entered, the cramped attic space around them seemed to expand with the weight of their shared silence. Peter sat on his bed, a book in hand, the evening light casting long shadows across the room. The distant honking of horns from the street below was a stark reminder of the world they were hidden from. "I've been thinking," Anne started, her voice barely above a whisper, "about us, about everything." Peter set his book aside, giving her his full attention. "I know. It's all so complicated, isn't it?" Anne nodded, taking a seat beside him. "I worry about Margot. I don't want her to feel left out because of whatever this is between us." Peter reached for her hand, his touch gentle. "She's your sister, Anne. She'll understand. We're all we have in here. But what if she doesn't? What if she thinks I'm betraying her trust?" Anne's voice cracked with emotion. "You're not betraying anyone. We're just two people finding comfort in each other. That isn't wrong," Peter continued, his voice steady. "In this place where every day is uncertain, we find solace in each other's presence. It's human to seek connection." Anne's eyes glistened with unshed tears, reflecting the dim light that filtered through the attic window. "And yet, I can't help but feel guilty. Margot has always been so kind, and I fear that my closeness with you might cause her pain." Peter's gaze held a depth of understanding. "Margot is strong, and she cares for us both. Perhaps it's time we talk to her, share our feelings openly. Honesty might be the kindest path forward." Before Anne could respond, the creak of the floorboards announced Mr. Frank's approach. His silhouette appeared at the door, a reminder of the ever-present caution they had to maintain. "Children, remember the walls have ears," Mr. Frank cautioned, his voice a blend of concern and fatherly care. "We must guard our words and actions, for they are not ours alone, but belong to the safety of us all." "We understand, Father," Anne replied, her voice a whisper of resolve. "We'll be more mindful." As Mr. Frank retreated, leaving them in the quietude of the attic, Anne and Peter exchanged a silent promise. Their bond, formed in the shadows of adversity, was a delicate dance of hope and restraint. They were acutely aware of the risks. Their finding purpose. As the days turned into weeks and then months, those hiding in the secret annex sought purpose and structure to bring normalcy to their confined lives. Anne Frank, known for her lively spirit, understood the importance of maintaining high spirits and bringing moments of joy to their fearful and uncertain existence. She proposed that each person take on specific tasks and responsibilities to feel useful and contribute to their small community. Mr. Frank, pragmatic as always, suggested dividing tasks according to their strengths. He offered to fix anything that broke and ensure their supplies remained well-stocked and organized. Mrs. Van Daan found comfort in cooking for everyone, reminding her of happier times. Peter, quiet yet strong, volunteered for heavier tasks and keeping watch over the street to ensure their safety. Mr. Dussel, a scholar, offered to teach literature and philosophy, emphasizing the importance of education. Anne, determined as ever, continued writing in her diary, hoping that her words might one day bring understanding and hope to others. Their days in the secret annex were filled with laughter, light-hearted pranks, shared stories and dreams, fostering a strong bond of solidarity and friendship. The daily tasks provided a sense of routine and control in their uncertain world. Anne's words in her diary captured their collective hope. "In the midst of all this darkness, we must hold on to the belief that better times are ahead. Let us find purpose in our daily tasks and comfort in each other's company. Together, we will persevere." And persevere they did, finding resilience and strength within the walls of their hidden home. Legacy of hope. As the conflict ceased, Otto Frank faced the task of rebuilding his life. With his family gone, he focused on preserving their memories through Anne's diary, a reflection of war's brutality and human endurance. Otto recalled discovering the diary, which brought back the days of concealment. Despite initial doubts, Otto was resolved to publish it, believing in its potential to inspire hope. His search for a publisher was challenging, but he succeeded, and the diary was released as The Diary of a Young Girl in 1947, touching readers worldwide. Otto, with his second wife Elfriede, committed to promoting Anne's legacy, emphasizing the need for empathy and kindness to prevent history's repetition. Anne's diary stood as a beacon of hope, and Otto knew her influence would persist, her words a lasting legacy.